The derelict secret, the UNS Sentinel, drifted through the void sector like a broken dream. For 12 years, it had been the galaxy's favorite punchline. The massive research vessel, nearly 2 kilometers long, showed obvious signs of battle. Damage across its hull, scorch marks from energy weapons, missing armor plates, and what appeared to be hastily patched holes told a story of human desperation and failure. Commander Vextar of the Zephorian patrol fleet often brought new recruits to observe the wreckage during training exercises. "Look well, cadets," he would announce through the ship's intercom, his forearms gesturing dramatically toward the viewport. "This is what happens when a species reaches beyond its capabilities." The humans thought they could explore the deep, void regions alone without proper Alliance support or advanced technology. The cadets would press their faces against the transparent aluminum, studying the seemingly dead vessel. Its running lights had been dark for over a decade. No heat signatures emanated from its engines. Even the communication arrays appeared to be offline, their dishes pointing randomly into space like the vacant eyes of a corpse. "What happened to them, sir?" a young Zephorian recruit asked during one such visit, her voice filled with curiosity rather than malice. "Engine failure in the deep void, most likely," Vexter replied with authority he didn't actually possess. "They probably limped this far before their power systems finally gave out. The crew either died or was rescued by merchant vessels. Humans are too proud to admit defeat, so they just left it here as some sort of monument to their stubbornness." The truth was far more complex than any alien observer could imagine. Deep within the Sentinel's heavily shielded core, 53 humans maintained their vigil in rotating shifts of consciousness. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the mission's chief scientist, monitored banks of quantum sensors that extended their awareness across multiple star systems. Her partner, engineer Marcus Chen, maintained the elaborate systems that kept their ship appearing derelict while housing some of humanity's most advanced technology. They were not abandoned. They were not failures. They were guardians. The Sentinel's mission had begun 20 years ago, when human deep space probes detected anomalous energy signatures from the galactic core. The readings suggested something ancient and vast was stirring, in regions of space that had been dormant for millions of years. Xenoarchaeologists studying the data compared the patterns to extinct civilizations' warnings found carved into dead worlds throughout the galaxy. The Devourers were awakening. Most species dismissed such findings as human paranoia. The galactic community had enjoyed relative peace for centuries. Trade routes flourished, cultural exchanges bloomed, and technological cooperation had reached new heights. Why should anyone believe that mythical cosmic horrors posed any real threat? But humans remembered their own history. They understood that periods of peace often preceded the greatest catastrophes, so they prepared for a war that no one else believed would come. The Sentinel's crew lived in carefully managed cycles. 20 members would remain conscious for 6-month rotations, while the others rested in medical stasis pods. This system allowed them to maintain constant vigilance for years without aging significantly or going insane from isolation. Their families back on Earth believed they were conducting routine deep space research, which was technically true. Dr. Rodriguez emerged from her daily meditation session and moved to the primary sensor station. The quantum detection array showed the same troubling patterns it had displayed for weeks. Energy signatures from the galactic core were intensifying. The ancient warnings carved into dead worlds spoke of entities that consumed entire star systems, reducing thriving civilizations to cosmic dust in their hunger for energy. Marcus, "You need to see this," she called softly. The engineer floated over in the low-gravity environment they maintained to conserve power. His expression grew grim as he studied the data. "It's accelerating," he confirmed. "The energy cascade is spreading faster than our models predicted. At this rate, the first systems will be affected within months, not years." Around them, the ship's AI systems maintained their elaborate deception. False damage reports were broadcast on frequencies the crew knew aliens monitored. Fake stress fractures were projected onto the hull using holographic emitters. The entire vessel appeared to be slowly deteriorating. Just another piece of space junk gradually falling apart. Meanwhile, hidden beneath layers of stealth plating, the most sophisticated defensive systems ever constructed by humanity lay in wait. Exotic matter weapons that could disrupt space-time itself. Shield generators powered by controlled black hole reactions. Manufacturing bays that could produce ammunition and spare parts from raw cosmic matter. The irony was not lost on Dr. Rodriguez that their greatest strength came from being underestimated. Every alien species that mocked the failed human vessel provided them with valuable intelligence. Trade ships passing through the area shared gossip about fleet movements and political tensions. Military patrols discussed defensive strategies. Within range of the Sentinel's passive sensors, "Alina," Marcus said quietly, pulling her from her thoughts. "The Zephyrian patrol is making another pass. Same commander as last month." She nodded and activated the ship's response protocol. Several harmless energy discharges would fire at random intervals, mimicking the kind of system failures expected. From a derelict vessel, a few hull plates would shift slightly, as if structural integrity was continuing to decay. The performance had to be convincing. Through the viewport, she watched the sleek Zephyrian patrol ship glide past. Inside, she knew Commander Vexter was probably delivering another lecture about human overreach and the importance of staying within one's technological limits. If only he knew that human technology had advanced far beyond anything his species had achieved. The real challenge wasn't maintaining their cover story. It was knowing that billions of innocent beings across the galaxy would soon face an existential threat. While their leaders remained focused on politics and trade disputes, the Devourers didn't discriminate based on species or philosophy. They consumed everything in their path. Dr. Rodriguez returned to her monitoring station and began composing her daily report for Earth Command. The message would be transmitted through quantum entanglement communication, untraceable and instantaneous. Her superiors needed to know that the timeline was accelerating. As she worked, she reflected on the loneliness of their mission. The crew of the Sentinel had volunteered to become ghosts, sacrificing normal lives to serve as humanity's early warning system. They watched alien children play on passing civilian vessels, knowing those same children might not survive what was coming. They observed bustling space stations filled with countless species, all blissfully unaware of the approaching darkness. But they also knew that their sacrifice meant something. When the Devourers finally emerged, humanity would be ready. The Sentinel and ships like it, hidden throughout the galaxy, would reveal themselves at the crucial moment. The species that had mocked human ambition would discover that sometimes reaching beyond one's apparent limits was exactly the right thing to do. Marcus finished his system checks and joined her at the communications station. "How long do you think we have?" he asked. Alina studied the data one more time, running calculations through the ship's quantum processors. 3 months, maybe 4. The energy patterns are becoming too obvious to ignore. Soon, even the skeptics will have to acknowledge what's happening. And then, She smiled grimly. Then the galaxy learns what humanity has really been doing out here all these years. Outside their hidden sanctuary, the stars continued their ancient dance, unaware that cosmic predators were stirring in the depths of space. The Sentinel maintained its vigil, appearing broken and abandoned while serving as humanity's secret guardian. Soon, very soon, the deception would end and the real battle would begin. Asterisk. The awakening storms. The first reports came from the Outer Rim territories, where mining colonies had gone silent without explanation. Search and rescue teams found empty star systems where thriving worlds had existed just weeks before. No debris, no survivors, no trace that billions of beings had ever called those places home. Just vast stretches of space drained of matter and energy. Commander Vextar received the emergency briefings. Aboard his flagship with growing unease. 3 different species had lost entire colonial regions in the past month. The patterns made no sense according to conventional warfare or natural disaster scenarios. Something was systematically consuming everything in its path. "Sir," his communications officer announced, "we're receiving priority transmissions from the Galactic Defense Council. All patrol fleets are ordered to establish defensive perimeters around core worlds." Vextar acknowledged the order while studying tactical displays. The enemy, whatever it was, moved through space in ways that defied understanding. They seemed to travel between star systems instantly, leaving nothing but empty void behind them, deep within the seemingly abandoned Sentinel. Dr. Rodriguez and her team monitored the galactic panic with grim satisfaction. Their sensors had tracked the Devourer's emergence for weeks before the first official reports. Ancient entities that existed partially outside normal space-time were awakening from eons of slumber, driven by an insatiable hunger for organized energy. "It's time," Alina announced to her crew. Marcus Chen nodded grimly and began activating systems that had remained dormant for over a decade. Throughout the ship, hibernating personnel emerged from stasis pods as the Sentinel's true purpose finally began. The transformation was remarkable. Holographic projectors shut down, revealing pristine hull plating instead of battle damage. Weapon ports that had been hidden behind false panels irised open to reveal exotic energy cannons. Shield generators hummed to life, powered by carefully contained singularities that had been slowly growing for years. Most dramatically, the ship's true size became apparent as additional hull sections extended from what aliens had assumed was structural damage. The Sentinel was actually 3 times larger than it appeared, with the bulk of its mass hidden in folded space dimensions. Captain Sarah Mitchell emerged from the command hibernation pod and immediately took her position on the bridge. She had been specially selected for this mission 12 years ago, chosen for her ability to make difficult decisions under extreme pressure. The weight of humanity's preparation now rested on her shoulders. "Status report," she commanded as her bridge crew assumed their stations. "All systems optimal, Captain," Marcus reported. "Quantum weapons fully charged. Manufacturing bays online. Our sister ships across the galaxy are reporting similar readiness." Elena's voice carried a note of urgency. "The Devourers are moving faster than predicted. They've consumed 7 star systems in the past week. Current trajectory suggests they'll reach the populated core regions within days." Through the viewports, they could see alien fleet movements in the distance. Thousands of ships from dozens of species were converging on what they hoped were defensible positions. None of them understood the true nature of what they faced. "Captain," Mitchell opened a secure channel to Earth Command. Control, this is Sentinel Station. Silent running protocol terminated. Requesting permission to engage. The response came immediately through quantum entanglement communication. Sentinel, you are authorized to reveal and engage. Godspeed, Captain. She turned to her communications officer. Signal all hidden stations. Operation Guardian is now active. Full disclosure to alien fleets in 30 minutes. The struck the first defensive line without warning. Commander Vextar watched in horror as creatures of living darkness tore through his fleet's formations. These weren't ships in any conventional sense. They were manifestations of hunger itself. Entities that absorbed energy weapons and grew stronger from the attack. His tactical officers screamed reports of impossible readings, energy signatures that existed in 11 dimensions simultaneously, gravitational effects that suggested masses larger than stars compressed into forms smaller than shuttlecraft. Traditional weapons simply fed these creatures, making them more dangerous. All ships retreat to secondary defensive positions. Vextar ordered, knowing it was probably futile. How could anyone fight enemies that grew stronger from being attacked? Then space itself seemed to tear open around the alien fleet. The derelict that had drifted in the void sector for 12 years materialized in the middle of the battlefield. No longer broken and abandoned, but revealed as the most sophisticated warship any species had ever seen. Attention, all vessels, came a calm human voice across all frequencies. This is Captain Mitchell of the UNS Sentinel. We are taking command of defensive operations. All ships fall back to coordinates we are transmitting now. Vextar stared in amazement as the human vessel engaged the Devourers with weapons he couldn't even comprehend. Beams of coherent gravity shredded the creature's extra-dimensional forms. Quantum disruption fields prevented them from absorbing energy attacks. Most remarkably, the humans seemed to understand exactly how these ancient horrors functioned. How is this possible? His science officer whispered. The answer came as more human ships decloaked throughout the galaxy. Vessels that had been dismissed as failed experiments or abandoned wrecks revealed themselves as guardians that had maintained secret vigils for years. Each one carried weapons specifically designed to counter the Devourers. Unique properties, Captain Mitchell's voice cut through the chaos again. This is why we came to the deep void regions. We detected the Devourers awakening 20 years ago and prepared for this moment. Our deception was necessary to position Guardian stations without causing galactic panic. The battle turned as human forces engaged the cosmic predators with deadly efficiency. Instead of feeding the creatures' energy, their weapons disrupted the fundamental forces that allowed the Devourers to exist in normal space. Ancient horrors that had terrorized the galaxy millions of years ago found themselves facing an enemy that understood their weaknesses. Dr. Rodriguez coordinated the defense. From her position at the sensor station, Pattern Delta 7, successful, she reported. The Devourers are retreating to extra-dimensional space. Pursuit Formation Alpha is tracking their quantum signatures. Around the galaxy, similar battles raged as humanity's hidden fleet revealed itself. The species that had mocked human ambition discovered that, sometimes reaching beyond apparent limitations, was exactly what the situation required. The failed experiments and abandoned projects were actually the most advanced defensive network ever constructed. Commander Vextar found himself working alongside human tactical officers as the combined fleet pursued the retreating Devourers. The coordination was flawless, suggesting years of careful planning and preparation. Captain Mitchell, he transmitted directly. On behalf of the Zephyrian people, I apologize for our previous assessments. We clearly underestimated both your technological capabilities and your dedication to galactic security. Her response carried a note of weariness mixed with satisfaction. Commander, deception was necessary to position our forces effectively. The Devourers would have adapted if they had known we were preparing for them. Sometimes the best defense appears to be weakness. The final phase of the operation involved tracking the Devourers back to their extra-dimensional realm and sealing the pathways they used to enter normal space. Human quantum engineers worked with alien scientists to create barriers that would prevent the creatures' return for millennia to come. As the crisis ended, the galaxy's perception of humanity underwent a fundamental shift. The species they had considered overambitious and technologically limited had secretly prepared for threats that no one else had taken seriously. The failed human vessels drifting through space had been guardians, protecting civilizations that didn't even know they needed protection. Dr. Rodriguez stood on the Sentinel's observation deck, watching alien ships depart for their home systems. Many carried human technical advisors who would help establish early warning systems for future cosmic threats. The age of humanity being dismissed as inferior was over. 12 years of pretending to be failures, Marcus commented, joining her at the viewport. Worth it. She smiled as she watched the stars, now safe from ancient predators. Every species that mocked us went home alive tonight. Their children will grow up in a galaxy where the Devourers are just myths again. Yes, Marcus, it was worth it. The Sentinel remained on station, no longer hiding its capabilities but continuing its eternal watch. Humanity had proven that sometimes the greatest strength came from being underestimated, and that true protection often required sacrifice that went unrecognized. In the depths of space. Other threats might someday emerge. When they did, they would find humanity ready, having learned that the galaxy's safety sometimes depended on those willing to become ghosts in service of the living. The end. **